Hello YouTube, this is Jay here, and this is my 10-month update of my no water change, no filter, deep substrate aquarium. So this tank has been going on for 10 months without any problems. The nitrates have never been above 12.5. I tested yesterday, it was near 0. Ammonia is at 0. So yeah, this tank hasn't had any problems, but I decided that this tank has gone on long enough. So I will be ending the experiment at this point. I don't want to take it any longer because I know from the start that this tank was not supposed to last forever. It's not designed to last forever. I just wanted to see how long it could possibly go, and I think it has gone on long enough. At some point, something's gonna go wrong in this tank. I don't know when. It may be tomorrow. It may be 2 years from now, 5 years from now. I don't know. I don't know when this tank will fail, but I know that someday it will, because it is fundamentally flawed in its design. So I decided that 10 months is an arbitrary point that I decided that this tank has gone on long enough, and I will be concluding the experiment. So I will be explaining why this tank was flawed from the start and what conclusions we can draw from it. Okay, so what do I mean when I say this tank was flawed from the start? So in order to understand this, I'm assuming that you have already watched my no water change series, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, just watch that video and come back. So this tank has things going in and things coming out, and if you want to make a tank no water change forever, it has to balance out. So what goes in is fish food, and what comes out is, because of this deep substrate here, denitrification happens and nitrogen gas leaves the tank. And this is pretty insignificant, but some shrimp and snails will breed, and I will periodically remove some, so there is some snail and shrimp biomass leaving the tank. So this is what goes out of the tank. And because I am heavily reliant on just this denitrification to get rid of stuff, this is not going to be equal. It is going to be imbalanced. Something is going to build up in the tank. And what that something is, it's just everything, all the minute minerals and whatnots, everything that's in the fish food is somehow going to build up in the tank. Now, how do you remedy this? If you want to make this tank truly no water change, you have to add something else. It has to have some shrimp or some algae, so that the algae or plants will grow, and I can add to this some plant or algae biomass. Then I can balance this thing out. But without any of that, it's gonna be a guessing game. So basically, the majority of the thing that will kill your fish, so basically your goal is to keep your fish healthy, right? And the majority of the toxins that are going to build up will be in the form of nitrogen. It's going to be in the form of nitrates, and you can get rid of the majority by using a deep substrate. But all the other tiny things that you can't even measure, because you can't measure everything, that you're just guessing as to how much those concentrations are going to be. And because there's so little data or anything to go on this, and there's really no practical way to measure it, you can't really know how much of a danger your tank is in. So the nitrogen, the nitrates will go up, and then it will plateau at some point, or even go down, and it will be under control. But everything else, it's going to slowly build up. And because these things aren't really toxic per se, it won't matter in the short term, but in the very long term, eventually this will be a problem. So when will that point be? You can't really know. It can be like 6 months from your setup, it could be 1 year, it could be 10 years, it could be 20 years, you don't know. Nobody knows. No one has done an experiment that long, so at some point everything else is going to become a problem, and unless you have a plan to deal with it, then this tank will eventually fail. So what can we learn from this tank ultimately? So these are the specs of the tank. It was a 22 liter or 6 gallon in size. It had about a 10 centimeter or 4 inches in substrate. It was composed of dirt at the bottom and sand at the top. It lasted for me 10 months. It could last longer, but I just decided that 10 months is long enough to prove a point. And the most important thing here is what I fed it. So this setup can handle 0.04 grams of 29% protein Vita fish flakes. This is a product here that I use. And if you're feeding this much and you have a tank like this, there is a reasonable chance that a setup like that will work for a prolonged period of time. If you want to try something like this and you want to actually keep it indefinitely, I'd say if you do a water change every 6 months, then it could probably last indefinitely, forever, as long as all the other parameters are kept the same. So that is the point of this video. If you have a deep substrate and you're feeding a reasonable amount and you have it stocked a reasonable amount, then it could probably last at least 6 months without a water change. How long will it last ultimately before it fails? Who knows? That's going to be difficult to tell, and I don't want to find out. I don't want to keep this experiment going until the fish die or something happens. So this is when I'm going to conclude the experiment. Thank you for watching, and I will be doing some different experiments in the future, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching, guys.